welcome to another Dead by Daylight creation review. So, before I start, plus I have to stall like I generally do to rename my YouTube video and all of that. You know how it is. I now am streaming 100% from OBS. That's what it's called, OBS. And because I'm streaming 100% from OBS, and I created a program that allows me to pin windows, guess what this means? Dun 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 dun! No matter what I do from now on, as long as that script doesn't break in some weird way, I am going to be able to look at chat now. I've been trying to wait patiently for them to fix their beta and everything else, but nah. There's no point. Especially when I can just go through and fix everything myself. So, I forgot what I was going to say. I actually forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I need to adjust my actual stream too. That's what I was going to do. Actually, before I even started all of this. Is I now have PayPal set up. It's d.QTASTIC@yahoo.com. So if you do want to donate money or anything like that, there you go. Trying to raise around $20 for new controller. I need a new controller. And I'm the type of guy to use the controller until it straight up just crashes and burns. So, unless somebody buys me a new one, I'm going to keep using the same broken controller and tweaking settings and soldering this thing together until everything eventually gets sorted. But either way, that's no longer that. I no longer need that. Should probably do my sound check. Very staticky. Well, I can just mute my mic through OBS now. I don't even have to worry about doing that. Let me fix the static. I'll be back. Alright. It says both are green. Let's see if it's lying to me or not. Oh, now it's going red. Very staticky. Green. Let's see if it's lying to me or not. Oh, now it's going red. that. Don't seem that bad. I think we're good to go. Oh boy. Had to switch some things around, and I never fixed the sound. I just left it the same as it was always, but since I'm going through OBS, I have to reset everything. So that's what I'm doing now, because I forgot to. So that's what I'm doing now, because I forgot to. What is that weirdest intermittent interference that I keep getting? I'm not understanding that. Intermittent. Alright. Speaking into the mic really, and it's still, there we go. That's where it's supposed to be. Now let me see if I can still hear anything. Alright, turn the sound back up so you can actually hear me speaking. I need this to be, why is it so low? This is max right now and it's still saying that interesting. Interesting. filters. Compressor, extended gain, burst. Oh, noise gates. So I can, and then there's noise suppression. I can just isolate the static. Now where are we at? If that did what it was supposed to do, there shouldn't be any issues, well, with anything. That should isolate the static. That should isolate the static. Good. That should isolate the static. Good. That should isolate. Now I can't hear myself talk. Good. A, B, C, now I can't hear myself talk. Good. A, B, testing, C, now testing. I can't hear myself talk. Good. A, B, testing, C, now testing. I can't hear myself talk. Good. A, B, testing. Noise cancellation was way too good. Noise cancellation way too good. Was way too good. Noise cancellation way too good. Was way too good. Noise cancellation way too good. Was way too good. Yeah, I can barely hear myself talking now. Yeah, I can barely hear myself talking now. There we go. Yeah, I can barely hear myself. Fix that. Now. There we go. Yeah, I can barely hear myself. Fix that. Now. There we go. Yeah, I can barely hear myself. Fix that. There we go. Yeah, I can barely hear myself. Fix that. There we go. Cool. Done. Done, 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 done. Everything seems to be fixed. Everything seems to be done. A little bit of a scuffed intro, especially on a Dbd Creations review, but I needed to set this up. And I didn't feel like re-ending stream and then restarting stream 5 minutes later. 10 minutes in this case. So like I was saying, I now have chat permanently pinned to the top of the screen, so whether I'm playing a game, doing a review, or doing anything else, I will always have chat in my view. So as soon as anybody says anything, it's going to immediately pop up. And I also have chat hooked to my Discord. So even if I don't necessarily see your chat message at top because I'm busy playing a game or something like that, or I'm getting into it, my phone will in turn vibrate, which is kind of a dinger for me, just in case I am just pseudo ignoring chat. Now, if I don't manage to see chat through the vibration of the phone sitting next to me and well, chat being just right in my face, then that makes me just a bad streamer. It's got nothing to do with any other programs. That's on me. Cool. I'm going to do one last sound check now that the echoes had a chance to get out of here. I'm going to do one last sound check now that the echoes had a chance to get out of here. I'm going to do one last sound check now that the echoes had a chance to get out of here. I'm going to do one last sound check now that the echoes had a chance to get out of here. Okay, now I can't hear anything out of my right earpiece. Okay, now I can't hear anything out of my right earpiece. Okay, now I can't hear anything out of my right earpiece. Okay, now I can't hear anything out of my right earpiece. There we go. I took the time to learn OBS and all that. I mean, the basics of OBS. Found some other things. The static sound has now kind of died down a little bit. I can hear out of both ears. Chat's on screen. Everything is looking up stream-wise for the time being. As I learn more and more, I'll be able to learn how to put chat on screen. I mean, as of now, I can only do it during my intermission screen, which shows whatever's on my main screen right now, and then chat will just pop up alongside of that as chat gets spoken. I wanted to hook it to a particular video and just have the video play during the intermission, like one of my old Rocket League videos and things like that, but I couldn't decide between them, so I just kind of have it pop up the video like you see right now. That's what sits, and then chat. Chat probably shouldn't have made chat white, huh? Now that I think about it. Right next to that. I'm using dark mode, so I see everything black, so I made it white. I should do the opposite and make chat black or blue or something, a darker color, so you can see it alongside that. Alright, enough scuffness out of the way. Let's get on with some Dead by Daylight creation reviews. Dbd Chapter banner mockup. So this is just the banner, but the puppet, they could add in the new map, Site Epsilon, which is just a little bit of a preview of what it would look like. And then the survivor being Simon Jarrett. I mean, it's sort of creative. I mean, you didn't do any of these designs yourself. You obviously just pulled assets and placed them in an area of the map. I mean, it's not bad. But instead of pulling things directly from the game, it would have been nice if you use your photoshopping skills, which I mean you obviously have some, to be able to pull two different images and put them on another image. It's a simple trick, but I mean, a lot of people can't even do that much when it comes to Photoshop, well, editing tools, I should say. Photoshop is way like 2000s. That's what millennials say, anything like that. That's what we were brought up with, is Photoshop. But I like it. It's a nice little banner. Looks nice. Congratulations. New chapter, With the Fallen, by ILEECHIPS. I've done some reviews of him on the past. His name hasn't stuck in with me. I think he did the voodoo one, maybe? Don't remember. I don't remember his name, so he must have been a decent contribution to this forum thus far. Oh my. And he even added a small survivor. Looks like it's short and sweet and only gives you the details that you need to get the general overview of the particular killer. So killer info. Name's going to be the Tribute. Occupation, or what he used to be before, ex-commander from Tribute League. I don't know what this means, but I guess if you ever played the game that where this is from, if it's even from a game, this kind of gives you a what this killer kind of looks like. It looks like a commander. Very tall. Tear radius is 40, and his speed is 2.9. You would like to see meters per second, but I understand what this is. You know, let's see 40 meters and then 2.9 meters per second. That's very unique, just starting out. Not only do you have a larger tear radius, you have a very slower speed. So I'm gonna go on the assumption that this guy is gonna be carrying like a minigun or something like that that heavily sprays. It stops his movement from getting across the map, but it's going to be once he has you, he particularly has you. And if that is the way, because him having this slow move speed, he's gonna have to have some way to move around the map. Whether that's like jet jumping or teleporting or doing some other kind of enhanced movement like with dashes or action rolls or something, you're going to want to see an incorporated amount of movement. But instead of speculate, let's jump on in here. Weapon that he uses is a broken broadsword. It's an antique. His chest, legs, he's in heavy plate, which makes sense because he's so slow. His appearance is like a knight in heavy armor, but he has harnesses of badges and things like that. So it's like, not War Thunder, like Warhammer. Sort of similar to that. Gotcha. And war paint. Animations and all of this, Maury's, all of this shouldn't have been placed up here. Save this for the end. Well, it'd have to be before the survivor, but save it towards the end after you've gone through all your perks and all that stuff. I understand that it makes sense to put all of this together into one area because it explains all his height, hair radius, things like this. But I mean, after you explain his speed and how he looks, the rest of this isn't that important, and it kind of drags this out. And because this is dragged out as far as it is, there's no overview on, you know, how the particular survivor is supposed to be played or anything like that. So, you explain to me what he looks like, what his animations are, but you never explain to me how you intend this killer to be played, his strengths, his weaknesses, things like that. When it comes down to, picking a suggestion, let's say behavior says, hey, we need a unique range killer. If you have an overview there, and it says, you know, melee killer, they can then go to the next concept. Or if you have range killer, they can then read your overview to see if that's what they're looking at or needing, and then make the decision then or there if it sounds good, or whether they want to go in that particular path or have, you know, a pursuer ranger or a standstill ranger or a slower ranger. Things like that. The overview is very important. If I'm looking for a ranged killer, and I come into this right here, and it says all of these things about this, luckily you put here commander, which kind of may assume that it might be some sort of range shooting type build or something like that. But in most cases, you would look at this, look at the beginning to see if there's an overview. First thing you would see is broken broadsword, and you would say, no, it's not a ranged killer. But looking at tear radius and speed and things like that, it really does assume that it's going to be some sort of range. So just categorization, which is another term that I'm adding into the mix, because, well, we want to stay relevant, and we want to get more details as things go. Instead of me going over the same checklist that I go over every time, we're going to incorporate the checklist, we're going to be faster about doing the main checklist, and we're going to incorporate new terms. Categorizing your killer, aka having an overview that puts your killer as a specific type of killer, so we can get details based around that particular concept and further define your killer is what we're looking for now. New term, newly thought up, things like that. Perks and ability of the tribute. Again, I would rather have the power and all of this nux, especially after all of this animation breaking and things like this. After you stack dump all of this information on top of me, and I finally scroll down, I want to be right into the crux of this killer. Again, categorize your killer appropriately. If you're not going to add an overview where I at least know what I'm getting myself into, I now have to go down and search for the type of killer this is. So if you are going to put perks first and follow the template of like Dead by Daylight and all of that, at least give me an overview so I have something to put the pieces of the puzzle together with. Because if not, I have to skip all the way past all of these perks. Then after that, there's a small story added here randomly, which you would thought would be either up here or towards the end. Then I'll have to go all the way down and find the particular powers, which this just says special ability. So I don't even know where this power is right now. Unless you, the terminology. Yeah, you have special ability and special ability 2. Power. In either secondary power, alternative power, special ability, alternative ability. I don't care what terminology you use. Per Dead by Daylight terminology, you just want, definitely state where your power is. That's the crux of your killer. So when I read this, I can get some sort of indication. And then the ability 2, okay. And then add-ons are after that, which doesn't make sense, by the way. Having the add-ons after the power and not the add-ons directly after the well, no, I guess they're fine where they are. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. You will want add-ons more towards the end, but all of this access stuff that you have, animation, Maury's, things like that, these should definitely be after the add-ons, because it's not relative information. And I'm going over structure of everything. Very severe, especially this particular view set, because the structures of all of these killer creations, people have missed the point of, I didn't say they missed the point, they've just stopped caring whether or not, you know, their particular concept getting implemented into the game or anything like that. They just don't care. They just want to say what they want to say, introduce their concept to the community, and then they move on. We've gone away from, hey, if I introduce this good thing, maybe they'll take a part or maybe a perk or something like that out of my concept and implement it into the game, which that's what they're doing. If you haven't realized, they have taken concepts from different creations that are on the forum and they've implemented them into the game. There's live proof there. When I did my artist things, I even pointed out that they've taken some concepts that people have made and thrown them in. So they might not take your entire concept, but they will take bits and pieces of it. This is why the structure of everything is important. If I'm hired as an employee to go through and, you know, look for things that can be implemented into the game, etc., etc., I'm not going to take the time, or at least I'm not going to spend a large amount of time going in through this conglomeration of mess that you have just random things listed here, there, and here, and like this. You need to keep everything neat. You need to keep it orderly. You need to keep it in line. And you need to use some sort of better template as opposed to just throwing things in. This is the one time where I'd say do not follow the Dead by Daylight game template. Because you have to keep in mind when you click on a particular killer or anything like that, all of that information is there and you can scroll to wherever you want. It's all set up, you know, within a specific reason. As soon as you scroll and highlight a killer and all of that, you know, you see what they are, etc., etc. As soon as you click on that killer, they pop into a different screen. The first time you click on the perks, it tells you their starting perks are, and they pop up. So you know, this perk's here, you highlight it, you highlight this perk, it tells you what that is. You highlight this perk, it tells you what that is. That's why if you try to go off of that template, the first thing you're going to want to put is perks before power, because perks spawn up first. You go through that, you hit OK, then you can scroll over to the power and all the killer information and whatever add-ons and things you want and figure out what the power is after that. Which is why if you look at the Dead by Daylight template, powers come first because it's the first thing you see. But you got to realize that this is an interactive menu, which makes things different. If I don't want to know what the powers are or the perks are right now, I can just hit the A button, that goes away, and I can scroll directly to powers. When it's all set up like this, there's no A button that I can hit that's just going to skip me automatically down to what this is. And this isn't formulated to give me icons and things like that. So there's nothing that I can skip to see what everything is. And again, you don't need to add in all of these dashes and things like this. The actual forum itself has tools, which I went over. Use the tools of the forum to separate all of these to make it look better. You have the tools in front of you. Stop being lazy and learn how to use the tools. If you're not, you're just creating more work for yourself and you're making this a whole lot harder to read. It's like, just look at it. Just scrolling up and scrolling through, I can't tell mostly where the different subjects and everything split from each other. So we really want to go back to the basics and fix the template of everything to make everything easier for behavior to come through, look at all of your different ideas and everything, and for them to easily see what they need to see. If you start out with a banger and you draw their attention in and everything's looking nice, you know, it's like eye candy and all of that, they're more apt to pull something from your concept than happen to go through and look through everything like this, and even on your perks, very long, drawn out. I'm glad you separated it all, but this can probably be shortened, and having 4 tokens, weird. Things like this. You have this here, double spaced to another line, double spaced to another line. Instead of using the tools, again, that's in front of you. Let's hop into this. I'm actually going to, for the sake of everybody who's watching this, skip forward to 34 minutes on 12/12/21 ED review. And for anybody that comes in and wants to go back to the past, they can go to 34 minutes and they can pick up and skip all the template talk. Name of the killer, the tribute. He's an ex-commander. He's tall. He has a very large tear radius at 40 and a speed of only 2.9. Survivors are 4, so he's going to be losing 1.1 meters per second on the survivor. His weapon's a broadsword. And then we jump directly into perks. 30 plus fall into order. You have a strong motive and can't stand slackers. For every survivor in point of view, gain temporary token. So for every survivor that you can essentially see, you definitely need to add some sort of range or something like that, because even the stalking features of the game has a specific range. If you want it to be full screen, then I would suggest you adding something in, like some sort of viewfinder or something like that, so you can increase your view distance, and then anybody within that particular view range that, you know, is in a specific range, you can automatically tag. And then that temporary token, just put a time limit on how long it lasts. So you're essentially tagging them and bagging them. When they say tag them and bag them, you're tagging them and bagging them. Slightly different from what that means, but you know. For every 1 token, you gain a 5% haste. I don't think 5% of 2.9 is much. 5% of 2.9 is equal to, yeah, it's only 0.145. So you're essentially going from 2.9 speed to 3.0 speed. Again, it's weird to have a 4 token setup. So this can actually be removed because you're only getting 0.1 speed going from 2.9 to 3. It's not relevant when survivors are going still an extra meter on you. So I would buff this haste. And again, you can either state how long the temporary tokens last and encompass all of this, or you can state how long the haste effects and all of these last singularly if you want to go into enhanced detail. But one of these two, either this or all of these, need to have some sort of timer on it. The haste status effect, I would remove this personally, but if you really do want to give them the extra haste and that's your only method of movement, you definitely want to increase this haste status effect. Because you're only getting like 0.15 per 5%. It's not a lot. Not a lot at all. Second token, vaulting and breaking speed increased by 30%. Again, that's still kind of weak because you're moving slower getting to the window. So you're essentially just becoming around the same amounts of speed as a regular killer. That extra time it's taking you to get to the window is probably taking you about 30% more time to get there. And then you're making up for that lack of speed that you have for vaulting 30% faster. It ends up you being there at the same amount of time. 3. Abilities charge 7% faster. This is another one of the reasons why you would like to see the actual ability of the killer first, because this means nothing to me. Ability charges 7% faster. I have no idea at all what 7%, if it's good, if it's bad, if it needs to be buffed, if it needs to be decreased, anything. No idea. I'm remembering ILEECHIPS. I'm starting to remember your concept. Your concepts I generally go through when I say they need to be buffed, because you generally have the weaker killers. I remember your kill concept now, your concepts. You end up being very, very, very gentle on the gas pedal. And you create killers that are weaker when it comes down to things, as opposed to being baseline or stronger killers. And then 4 tokens, you are granted the exposed status effect, albeit temporarily. This does not apply to dying state survivors or hooked. Lose a token if survivors are out of POV. So, okay. So you want this to apply as long as you have a survivor in vision. So this is essentially a Michael Myers that automatically stalks, but a lot weaker and a lot slower. Gotcha. If that's what we're going for, then you're going to need a distance, as I stated before. A distance in your point of view. How far out can you see a survivor? Because if you can see all the way across map, I mean, that's going to be broken once you actually balance this killer. because all you have to do is just stand on top of a rock or something like that, and you'll get most of those. But then again, you lose the token as soon as the survivors are out of point of view. And it's this clause right here, not having a timer on all of these for how long they last after this happens, is what causes this to be extremely weak. If you want to keep this initial concept, gain haste, a 5% haste while in view and for X amount of seconds after the token gets consumed or goes away or whatever you want to say that it does. Granted exposed status effect for X amount of seconds after survivor out of view. Because in order to get the 4 token guaranteed exposed status effect, you have to have all 4 survivors in view for that entire time. It's going to be impossible for you to keep all 4 survivors. So what's going to happen is all 4 survivors are going to be standing together. As you get close to them, using your speed boost and your ability boost and everything else, the survivors are going to start to scatter. And as they scatter, you're going to go from 4 tokens, to 3 tokens, to 2 tokens, and right before you make that hit on the survivor, you're going to have 1 token. So not only do 4 survivors need to remain in view as you're hitting the 1 survivor, you're going to have issues of that. So definitely here, you need to add timers, cooldowns, and things like this. This needs to be flushed out to where it can't be exploited and it's actually usable. Because, I mean, anytime you're chasing a survivor, you're going to have the haste, but the haste is so minuscule. And if this is the only method of movement, you're going to want to increase this haste a lot, by a lot. At bare minimum, with this haste, you want to make it over 4.6. So when nobody's, in front of you, you're kind of like a machine walking. The guard machines you see not really doing anything, like a Five Nights at Freddy's animatronic on the open range games. They're just chilling, walking around, patrolling. Then after you see a survivor, you immediately pick up pursuit, and you start running after them at an increased speed. Which, I mean, this would actually be a very good concept for a Five Nights at Freddy animatronic, now that I think about it. I might leave that. So you want to increase this haste for as long as you have a survivor in your sight, you're super fast. Like an animatronic. That's what I'm going to tell you use as sort of like a template when you're getting your speed. You don't want to be ridiculously fast. You just want to be a little bit faster than your average killer to cover that deficit of the 2.9 that you're going to be walking at when you're not in range of a particular survivor. Vaulting and braking speed increased by 30%. Not doing much. I ain't gonna lie to you. If you're chasing somebody through Kill Shack and doing things like that, it don't matter really how fast you can vault unless you have like a Legion vault that literally you can just chop that crap and immediately hit and keep that burst of speed. It doesn't matter how fast you get through. And because of the FOV of a killer going through a particular window, survivors can just FOV tech you because you're going so fast. Braking speed, there's already a perk for that. So now you got vaulting and braking speed together. I mean, there's perks for this already. But I mean, your guy does need heavily increases of speed because his base speed is extremely slow. 3, I don't know. 3, I don't know. 4, is fine, but you definitely need to incorporate timers and everything else onto those. Scorch Hook, no longer whole. At the start of the trial, gained 4 tokens. Walking up to a hook, pressing the active button turns the hook into a Scorch Hook. Why? That's not how this concept works. You can't just paint your own hooks. Plus, I wouldn't want to paint my own hooks anyway. Scorch hooks are generally lined out perfectly on all the corners of the map to where you can at least get the one within a reasonable amount of time. Not every time, but they're generally put into the main areas that survivors trek through. Research has been done on Scorch Hook location, which is why you never see any and way out in the corner. Well, very rarely, if even possible, see them way out in the corner of a map where they're not reachable. So, what was I going to say? Yeah, so I don't really see any reason to paint Scorch Hooks and put them anywhere. I mean, I guess if you down somebody near a particular hook, I guess it gives you the ability to go ahead and paint the hook and then pick that survivor up and drop them on it. But you gotta keep in mind, which I guess this creator doesn't know, that every single killer moves at 4.6 meters per second when carrying a survivor. That is for everybody. Nerves, 4.6 meters per second when carrying a survivor. So if you do down a survivor and another survivor is being pesky, you can literally just pick that survivor up, get the 4.6 meters per second, and catch the other survivor if you're running correct perks. Agitation makes you go even faster than that. Then Iron Grass makes it to where you got 17.9 seconds to go around and do whatever you need to do. So, I mean, painting particular Scorch hooks isn't necessary for this particular perk, plus you're changing a core mechanic of the game. Let's let the game devs who put them in very nice spots. If you're not liking their placement, I do recommend running Iron Grass or even Iron Grass and Agitation if you have extra perk slots. But Iron Grass, with the 3 perks you're trying to implement, would fit in perfect for this killer because he's slow until he picks somebody up and he's going 4.6. Survivors on a Scorch Hook have movement speed reduced by 8% and item speed increased by 10% until fully healed. Well, most survivors get healed directly off the hook. This perk actually isn't even helpful for the particular killer as it's designed. You have no type of movement speed. This, I mean, can be used for other survivors to get some value. You're never going to get the 4 token value. I don't even think your FOV's wide enough. Unless they're all standing in like a line. But generally they would go different angles. If all 4 survivors are standing next to each other and you're honing in on one survivor to hit them, I don't know if you can actually keep 4 in frame. Their movement speed being reduced helps a little bit. The item consumption 10% doesn't really do anything. I mean, it stops a regular Dinks item without any attachments from like completely healing a survivor. I mean, yeah, I guess it'll do that. But it's not that strong This is decent, you know, on other killers, but the particular killer that you're trying to bring it in on, it's useless to. Your killer's too slow to have any type of benefit here. And then Judgment. Hooking a survivor causes 2 random generators to regress by 10%. Okay, you're literally taking the artist's perk. Is it artist or is it pyramid? Not pyramid head. Pinhead. I think it's the artist that does the regression. It's like 16% or something like that. You're literally taking this, the artist's perk, and buffing it. That's gonna be a no. So perk already exists for this. This is not useful for the actual killer you're implementing. And this is not very feasible. Skip the small story. Now we get into what this actual ability is. Trial and error. Tribute draws his long sword, taking a brief moment of charging. Upon releasing, he runs forward, breaking any thrown pallets and walls in the way of charging. You can charge into 2 pallets and or breakable walls before being stunned. Charging into a wall or known breakable object triggers an AoE effect, but in a 10-meter radius instead. The bar meter depletes over time during this, canceling it early, caused the tribute to slam his sword into the ground, making an AoE slam effect in a 20-meter radius? Are you ridiculous? Injuring survivors into injured state and causing them to scream. 20-meter radius slam. Do you realize that survivors aren't gonna have any chance to escape? You're literally just gonna run over to the nearest generator being worked on and slam. And anybody that's in that area is going to get injured. Every time. Even with a 40-meter tear radius, this is a charging run attack. It's like a Legion run attack. Duration of trial and error is 5 seconds. It is very rare that you're going to be able to hit 2 pallets or 2 breakable walls in 5-second span. So you've taken something that's been super OP and you've nerfed it so hard that it's not even useful anymore. 5 seconds. And you don't even say how fast this charging speed's going to be, or the running speed's going to be. So is it 4.6 meters per second, like Legion, or what? What are we doing here? I don't know. Special ability 2, Dying Wish. This ability is only available after a gen has been completed. The tribute removes his face mask as a swarm of crows exit out, causing more crows to be placed around the map, just like regular ones. 2 crow swarms spawn on ability. You couldn't make it anything else besides crows. You could have said owls, you could have said anything, because even the artist just came out relies on, well, I guess you could technically call them ravens, but ravens and crows and things like that. I would recommend finding a different bird and not using the word crow, but I mean, it's fine. It's not that strong. Because all the crows do is the same thing as regular crows, they just fly away. It doesn't say anything about them stepping in crows alerting the killer, so there you go. You would still have to run the, whatever the Spies in the Shadows perk is, in order to get any ability out of that. So that might want to be relooked at as well. Hermes Boots greatly increased movement speed. Doesn't say how much greatly is. This particular guy, he thinks that token perks .1 is relative, so greatly increased movement speed might be like .3 going off of his other things. Deal with the devil. Trial and error now puts survivors in a dying state on hit. I don't even think it's possible to actually hit a survivor directly with that particular attack because it has a charging time on it and you're not saying what the run speed is. By the time you charge, however long that is, and then run after the survivor, they're going to be at enough distance to where that 5 seconds shouldn't be relevant. Where you get your power out of is the slam attacks. You get as close as you can, within a specific amount of distance, because, I mean, the survivor's going to be zooming at 4 meters per second, and you're going to be at around 3. So, your crux of your power is to do these short runs and then cancel early for a slam at the end to just injure the survivor. And then once that gauge builds back up, which we don't even know how the gauge builds up, it activates. Yeah. Taking a brief moment to charge. And then upon leasing, he runs forward. So we don't even know the details into all of that. Survivor. Pressing active button near a group of crows causes them to highlight. Highlighted crows do not trigger when near survivors, but will trigger when killer is nearby, revealing their location for 5 seconds. This is like Spies of the Shadows, but for survivor ideally, but you can only do one swarm of your choosing. No, because when a killer goes near a crow, that crow triggers regardless. There's something called, it's Jake Park's perk. Kindred Spirit? No. Nature Spirit? Nature's Calling? I don't know. Something like that. That makes crows not trigger at its max. It used to be 50% at its max, and it was really bad towards the beginning of the Dead Late. But I think they since changed that to 100%. Stops crows from activating when you're nearby. So instead of just incorporating a perk, why not just list? I would add this effect to Nature's Calling or whatever it's called. Where if a killer goes through, it shows their location. Definitely not for 5 seconds. It should just show the particular area that the killer ran through very quickly. Just boom. And then that's all you get. I don't know why people, when it comes to aura revealing, they're wanting to use it and they're wanting to add way more time than is necessary. If they're going through crows, I mean, one, look for the crows leaving as the killer goes through a particular area. Use your eyes, use your ears to hear that crows are moving. And then, if you're bad at doing that, use this perk. You get a sound that lasts, maybe like a second or two. Just so you know where it's coming from. A very dim light pops up where the crows are going from. And then you're back into the gameplay. You don't need to know which direction the killer's going or any of that craziness. You're trying to stack too much. And this is where this form's headed to, is aura reading, aura reading, aura reading, aura reading. And a significant amount of aura reading. And people even state that aura reading should be extended because it doesn't give you enough time to see exactly where the killer's going. It's like you don't need to know where the killer's going. You just need to know that the killer is in that particular area. Sacrifice. You have no problem throwing your teammates under the bus. Oh, another one of those. Whenever you're working with the survivor on any... Whenever you're working with a survivor on any action inside killer territories. So whenever you are performing a cooperative action while inside of a killer terror radius, press the active button. You have a lot of things using that active ability button, right? It's an active ability near a group of crows. There's an active ability button here. What happens if you're near a group of crows and you're with a teammate? Which takes precedence. You got to think about those types of situations as well. Use different buttons. You got your interactive button, you got your secondary action button, and then you have your active ability button. Separate these. But whenever you're using the cooperative action with another survivor inside killer's terror radius, press the active button. Press the active ability button to cause the other survivor to scream, revealing them for 2 seconds, granting yourself 150% speed for 6 seconds, and the endurance effect to them for 30 seconds, exhausting yourself for 60 seconds. No, you were throwing your teammate under the bus. You should not get safety for throwing a teammate under the bus. You do not get no endurance status effect because you are trolling at this point, and that's what people are going to do. Anytime the killer comes near, they're going to troll. Anytime you're working a cooperative action, they're going to troll. You're giving them the ability to troll. You don't need any type of enhanced speed. Giving them the endurance status effect isn't going to really work either. Because I'm assuming if one survivor's healing another survivor, they can activate that particular ability, and it doesn't have to be a 2-on-1 thing. So, the person that you activate this particular effect on, I can agree with giving them the endurance status effect. Not for a long amount of time, though, because, well, when it comes to killers getting survivors down, they're literally just going to be giving themselves the endurance status effect. So, imagine borrowed time. You unhook the survivor off of the hook. The survivor runs behind you, takes the borrowed time hit. If the killer decides they're going to stop and wait for this other person's borrowed time timer to go off, the other person can then just turn around, start healing them, hit that particular button, and extend their borrowed time timer. And then if the killer goes and hits the other person can then extend their borrowed time timer, and then it just becomes a looping tack. If you have 4 survivors together, all granting themselves a speed boost, and as they get hit, activating borrowed time timers during co-op actions and all of that, it's going to be a pain for any killer that's going up against a gank squad to get anything done, or a bully squad. I guess this is the term that we pull from the other guy's concept. So, I mean, if you are throwing a particular survivor under the bus, you yourself don't need any type of speed boost. You've already put the killer's attention on that particular survivor. 2, you don't need to grant yourself a speed boost, just run Sprint Burst. Sprint Burst is already balanced. Work on a generator, you make them yell, your Sprint Burst is already going to be charged. You can then do the ultimate meg, like blowing up a generator and running. This time you're making the survivor scream, which is probably going to make them blow the generator anyway. And you're going to meg out. And if the killer decides to chase you for being, you know, a dick, which is probably going to happen majority of the times, they're going to leave the person there who you made scream alone, and they're going to go after you. Anyways. Two, it shouldn't be all... It's implemented badly. Again, it's going to be a troll. It's going to be trolling on trolling on trolling on trolling on trolling. Instead of making this a positive effect, or some sort of life link effect, to where we're doing cooperative actions, you can link one health state of yours to that particular person. So when the killer comes around the corner, you know, they get revealed for 2 to 3 seconds. And then they can take off running now that the killer sees them. The first hit that they take is then linked to you. So you take that first hit for them. And then it takes 2 more hits for them to go down. That way, you're not just getting off scotch-free pulling a Meg, and you're helping other survivors. And you can use that, you know, to essentially risk your health in helping the survivor. And it's sort of like the whatever her chick's name is that can instantly heal a survivor, but she gets the broken status effect. But it's different, as opposed to it can only be applied during a cooperative action, and it makes them a decoy. So instead of sacrifice, change sacrifice to decoy and make it more usable for the game. That makes any types of sense. Left behind, ... not. Increase your open gate speed by 30% if hatch is available. It is unlocked and revealed to you for every 4 for 2 seconds while gates are opened. No. There's the build perk that highlights hatch from a decent amount of distance. You don't need any type of other hatch guarantees beside that. The gate opening speed by 30% is ridiculous as well. Who needs 30% opening gate speed? Jesus Christ. You are trying to incorporate something, but you're not doing it very well. If hatch is unlocked, you immediately know where hatch is after the exit gates are open. Again, if you're playing a SWF with, you know, you and your friend, and you two are the last ones alive or anything like that, I mean, you can always force that situation. Gens get done, your friend goes and immediately opens up. Exit gate runs out, leaving you by yourself. Or everybody else escapes and you're on a hook. Your friend takes you off hook, you run inwards towards map, he runs at the exit gate. Killer chases him out of exit gate, and then when the hatch pops up, you immediately know where the hatch is. And it keeps pinging and keeps pinging and keeps pinging. That takes Bill's perk just out of the equation, because this perk is obviously superior, because you know exactly where it's at. You don't have to run around and get within a particular meaty or particular radius of it. Exit gate speed at 30%, I'll probably never agree to. Exit gates open very quickly compared to anything else in the game. I could see getting like a 4 or 5% speed or whatever Spine Chill gives you and other perks like that, but the fact that this is a dual perk that gives you 2 different options, it shows you where hatch is and increases speed of exit gates, definitely not. Pick one thing and then try to balance it to where it's usable in the game. You're not going to get a perfect balance because you're going to have to public test beta to get perfect balance, but this is pretty unacceptable. And this has been edited down, so again, I like the concept. You definitely need to either up the speed of your particular killer or to give him some sort of dynamic movement. Because the only type of dynamic movement he has is 5% of increased running speed on his charge, and then the 5% haste, which was like 0.14 speed added in. It made him move a little bit over 3, where survivors are 4 meters per second. It definitely needs more dynamic movement. Also, make it similar to Legion's chaining ability. Legion runs for X amount of time. If he hits a survivor, his chain resets, and then he can go and hit something else. Once he hits 2 people, the chain ends unless there's add-ons or anything else. And then he gets stunned. As opposed to just giving you 5 seconds, make it like the Blight. Even the Blight would be, I guess, more of a thing. If you use the Blight Serum and run in a straight line and not bounce off of anything, you won't go nearly as far as if you're bouncing off things. So make it to where if you bounce off of, I don't know what this var attack in VSF dot attack in any of this crap is. I don't know what this is. I see it every stream that I make. I don't understand what it is. And it doesn't matter if I ban them or do whatever, because they just come back and do the same thing. I don't know. Anyway, make it the where if you walk up and you charge through a particular pallet, you then get an increase of 5 seconds or something like that. You break through another pallet, you get an increase of 5 seconds on your ability. And it keeps chaining and chaining and chaining. And then you can have add-ons to make it to where instead of going through 2 things, you can go through, 3 or 4 things. Or even have an iridescent to where you can just chain forever. As long as there's a breakable door or a pallet that's down. Which in this case, if nobody's running the perk that you can pick pallets up, you can keep down pallets and use them as speed boosts. You just run in one pallet, knock it down. Go to the next pallet, knock it down. Go to the next pallet, knock it down. And all of these stacking buffs of, breaking speed and things like that being an increase, the stun duration being decreased on a particular break animation or make the break animation faster. And you can chain and chain and chain and chain and chain and keep going until you get that direct hit on a survivor. As opposed to only getting 5 seconds to down a survivor after a charge and everything else. So that's about all the thoughts I have on this. It's been 1 hour and 13. It's been a while since I went through, so I guess I'll leave a comment. I am doing a live stream over this concept right now. Beginning had issues, then went over concept structure, and started the base review of your concept at the 34-minute mark. On my, I don't even remember what I named this. I think it was just a general, I just put the, yeah. I don't even remember what I named this. Go here. Scope this out. Bang. Stream, which is still live now. If you want full details. But here is a short summary. The things that I noticed is Killer needs more movement. Killer needs, I'll say it needs movement. This particular killer needs a different form of movement. If you are here looking at this, you can skip. I'm just going over what I'm basically trying to summarize what I just went over the last, I don't know. How long was it? It was only like 40 minutes. The last 40 minutes. So killer needs a different form of primary movement. This killer is way too slow baseline to not have anything incorporated for him. Also, put your money where your mouth is. If you want to talk about it, then don't do the same thing. Use your different things. 2, power needs to either be longer. I'm going to say charge power, so we know specifically which one I'm talking about. The charge power needs to either be longer or able to be extended in some way. This is because, again, unless you're standing right on top of a survivor, between the charge up animation and the 5 seconds of charge that you get chasing that survivor, they're going to be getting 4 meters per second distance on you. So if it's, let's say, a 2-second charge, they're already 8 meters per second away from you. You're moving at 2.9 or whatever the charge speed is. Oh, yeah. Also needs to have, I'll put that as number 3. All speeds of all actions need to be defined. So we know how fast this killer moves in all phases. And just in case he doesn't know, I shouldn't have to put meters per second. Everybody knows it's all put in meters per second, or at least they should know. All speeds of all actions need to be defined so we know how fast this killer moves in all phases and how much time it takes. Also, hey stupid, how's about instead of telling him what to search for, you just give him the link? You see how much easier that is? If you just, instead of putting all of this down and making him search you out, you just give him a direct link. This link's going to be caught by the server guys, though. So, I'm going to take out the HTTPS just so I don't get server dinged. Never mind. No, that worked. Yeah, it's no longer clickable, but I mean, all you gotta do is just copy and paste this. Shouldn't pull it up as a link now, so I shouldn't have any issues from the mods or the mod system detecting that I posted a link. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna take out the www as well and just have youtube.com/this. Yeah, they're gonna have to do the extra work of copying and pasting that there to get there, but I don't want, like I said, I don't want the server saying, hey, you posted a link. Here's a strike for it. Don't do it again. So there you go. Also, my forum name is QTASTIC, so doesn't matter there. All's good. So those are the primary things. Movement speed needs to be addressed. Charging power needs to be longer or extended. Needs to be more usable. And then the speeds of all actions need to be defined so we can in turn give you more constructive feedback. Have a good day and supplement your lifestyle. You test it. I rarely do this, but I mean, the people that I have done this for generally are open-minded, and I've gained a lot of respect on this particular forum. I mean, I've had people message me before they posted their concept saying, hey man, you know, do you want to go over this before I post it? So I've built up quite a bit of respect with a couple of creators, and you know, they're people that are posting all the time. But then you have like Galanonim that always stops by, and a couple of other people that have emailed me and talked about things, you know. So I am building my repertoire. And since nobody else really does anything in this particular area, it's kind of it's real estate. That is the new chapter with the Fallen by ILEECHIPS. And I tell you what, I'm actually going to fill in this particular concept with this particular information. Generally, I leave this blank unless I find something that is noteworthy. But you know what? This is very noteworthy, and it's very unique as a killer. He's taken the time to go through and do everything that needs to be done. I also need to pull that link back out. His Fallen concept is there. Bam. There's his concept, or created, submitted by ILEECHIPS. Concepts there. Go back to creations, pull this actual link, because I had to copy and paste this at the beginning of the stream. Boom. So in the description of this video, I have the creation forum link. I have the particular killer and everything else posted with the author's name, ILEECHIPS. I gave you a link to actually get back to that, and everything else. It's all there. You don't have to worry about it. Just check the link in the description. You can get directly into this concept if you're interested in it. And there you go. I do hope that more people will go to this concept and continue to give this individual ideas, because I do like the concept. Don't get me wrong. I do like the concept, and I think it's unique versus all the other concepts that I go over. This is a very refreshing concept that doesn't involve any type of mini Moris and a killer running around that's just super OP, just wiping the entire fields of everything. Again, since he said new chapter with the Fallen, This killer is no longer able to be part of my alternative killers or anything like that. I mean, which is unfortunate, because I think I could have actually incorporated this and gave it its own separate video. But I mean, you guys know the criteria. If it's supposed to be a chapter, I'm going to respect the time and effort that they put into this particular chapter and leave it as standalone, as opposed to try to take their concept and stuff it into my own agenda. Next concept, another bendy concept. He did it on Google Docs, so I probably can't even look at this. Yeah. Even though it's a Google Doc and all of that, I'm not going to click on any type of external links, because all he needs to do is run this through an IP tracker or IP sniffer or anything like that, and bam, your IP belongs to him. Don't click on any type of erroneous links. Generally, when you're well, it's called phishing. Generally, when you are being pulled from one page to another web page, you don't know any of the traffic that you're going through or any of the IPs or networks or anything like that. So even if somebody posts a Facebook link on something, you generally want to go to Facebook and search everything up yourself, or they could pull your IP. VPNs ain't gonna save you when it comes to things like that. I'm sorry, they don't. If it's a cheap sniffer, like on a website, that's fine. It'll just pull the VPN or the first thing that it shows. If it's an actual malicious, hacker that wants to pull your IP, it's not just going to be oh, well, this connection's coming in, here's the connection that's coming in. It's going to be, they're going to send you packets during the transition between websites, if they even take you to the Facebook website, not a fake Facebook website that they set up. That when you press enter with your password, that information gets sent to them, and then it reloads you onto Facebook's actual page. And then it just says, oh, well, your password's not correct. Be very careful when clicking on erroneous links. They can ruin you. Next chapter concept is When Death Tolls. It's by Critical Fish. This is not a name that I recognize. Posted December 8th. It's 4 days ago. We're going to see how critical you are, Mr. Fishman. So this seems to be a, let's say, rough draft. Definitely wouldn't have put chapter concept When the Death Tolls. One, I don't even see any type of survivor. So it's not a chapter concept. You don't have a survivor. It doesn't look like you have any type of map. You don't have any type of animations. You don't have any type of anything that would make this being able to put into an actual concept. It has been edited, so he might be intending in the future to expand upon this and add more into it. But, I mean, all you gotta do is put work in progress, WIP, anywhere after this so people know that, hey, this isn't the final product. That's all you gotta do. New killer, which is what he should have put up here, is the Reaper, which actually isn't actually a new killer or a concept, because I've done 3 Reaper killers or Reaper concepts just last month. I don't think I recorded all of them because they were kind of samey, but let's go through this one. This will probably be the last concept. Then I'm going to switch back over to Splinter Cell Double Agent, and we can go from there. Now, Grim Reaper, everybody knows Grim Reaper. Only difference is, actually there is no difference, it's literally just the Reaper. Speed, 4.6, tear radius, 32 meters. That's where I would beg to differ. Grim Reaper is generally the last thing you see before you die, so his tear radius should either be extremely low, or extremely high, because this is literal death coming to you. This isn't a killer that's going to necessarily sacrifice you to the entity when it comes to things like this. This is the end of the line. I mean, that's it. You're done when the Reaper gets you. So the terror radius of looking at literal death itself, which is a concept that the Dead by Daylight characters really have kind of forgotten, because they're going through endless trials of getting sacrificed and hit and everything like that, back to back to back to back. So I would definitely lean upon the terror radius being higher because of who it is, or keeping it the old stealth death and taking his terror radius significantly down, if not removing it altogether. Its primary power is Soul Taker. Soul Taker starts with 2 charges. Okay, so it's a charge built, Dark Power. Also, I'm supposed to be harping on this. There is no overview about how this killer is supposed to be played, which is where we're at now. Like I said, he can be a out and about type of, the pursuer where death pursues you and eventually ends you. Or he could be a stealthier type of killer that pops out of nowhere and takes your life immediately. An overview, very important to have depending on, on every concept. Primary power, Soul Taker. Soul Taker starts with 2 charges, with additional charges being gained after hooking a survivor. Holding mouse 2, again, do not list things PC controls. Try to stick to the terminology of the particular game, because what ends up happening is, well, anybody that's not on PC is going to have to figure out the difference in between. Like me personally, I play controller, but I play on PC. So saying mouse 2 and mouse 1 and all that, I mean, I've learned over time what they are, but PC people generally don't understand the limitations of console and controller and things like that have, unless they play the particular game with the controller. So keep that in mind. You don't want to use mouse 2. You want to use power button and, basic attack button, and then secondary action button or active ability button or things like that. Holding the power button will start Soul Taker and remove a charge. Slowing the Reaper down to 80% speed and holding up his scythe for 1.5 seconds before rushing forwards. Not fast. The rush has a maximum range of 24 meters. There we go, with the Reaper moving at 185% speed. You would do me a treat by putting how fast that is in meters per second afterwards, because now I'm going to have to look all of this up. Turning is incredibly restricted while using Soul Taker. Oh yeah, I'm going to assume it's the same as like a chainsaw or anything like that. A console, not high sensitivity chainsaw, and I wish Dead by Daylight would drop down the amount of sensitivity that they allow players to have. You shouldn't be able to spin 10 circles with one swipe of the mouse. That's all I'm saying. It would make the game a lot better if you weren't able to use your sensitivity to get hits as killer, and your sensitivity to look incredibly fast and do everything you want to do in specific detail with Survivor. But it is what it is. The Reaper can cancel Soul Taker by letting go of mouse 2. Does that charge come back if you cancel that? That's what I want to know. The reason I asked is because I skimmed the first line. When a survivor is hit by Soul Taker, they'll be immediately down regardless of health state. If the charge comes back when you don't necessarily take Soul Taker, that Soul Taker, attack at that particular moment, then I would definitely nerf this. However, if you leave it skill based, to where as soon as you activate Soul Taker, you're going to either take that shot or you're going to lose the charge, then we can talk for balancing wise. But I mean, if I can just start Soul Taker, cancel it, and get that charge back at any time, then I just have to wait until, everything's lined up until I get the perfect hit or a survivor does something dumb, and then take them down because of that. Like window hopping. The survivor doesn't fake window and I'm right behind them. I'm gonna get that booty as it's going through that window every time. I have to go back through and figure out the particular math here. So we're gonna look at 80% of 4.6. So when you're charging up, you move at 3.6. So 1 meter per second slower than your regular speed. You move at 0.4 meters per second slower than survivors. That actually seems balanced, believe it or not. Because it gives you the option to, actually, no. I'm doing that backwards. You're going to be moving at 1 meter per second. While you're charging up. And then you're going to release and do the particular dash. I forgot that it was 25 meters that you could rush before you stop, too. So it's not balanced. It wouldn't have been balanced in that particular aspect. So you're going to be moving at... I'm not going to do the 0.68. The 8's going to be rounded to whatever works for me. So when you charge, you're moving at 1 meter per second for 1.5 seconds. So a survivor sitting right in front of you is going to be able to run, if they run in a straight line, 6 meters from you before this particular effect activates. That's if, they're right on top of you. Got it. And then the Reaper moves at 185% speed. (185% speed). So you would be moving at 8.51 meters per second. So this dash can only last a maximum of 3 seconds. 8.5, and you can only go a maximum of 25 meters. It would be nice if this excess information was already included into the concept, so I didn't have to look this up. Nobody's in chat, so I'm actually going to take the time to put 8.5 meters per second and then 3.6 meters per second. This goes to Discord too, which is why I'm doing it. So I know this general information, I don't have to memorize it. So, it's also going to be a 3-second dash. Having this chat up, I might use it as notes more often. I mean, shoot. Instead of opening up a separate notebook and taking notes on concepts. I mean, I have a room. I can open up a small notebook and write it down, but I'm doing this for the people that are watching, so why not just put everything up there? So again, the question I would like to know is, once you start this dash, does the charge come back when you cancel it? Because if it does, then there's some heavy nerfing that needs to be done. If it doesn't, then we can go into another positive direction and kind of start to polish this out and, you know, let things settle correctly. Like it says, the Rush has a maximum range of 24 meters. 8.5 meters per second speed means that you can only go for 2 point something seconds, but I'm rounding it up. A 3-second dash. And in those 3 seconds, you're going all the way out 25 meters. So yeah, it makes sense that the Reaper can't turn that well because of this super influx of speed. The Wraith moves at what, like 6.5 or something like that when he's getting or when he's at max speed, and that's 2 meters per second, even faster than that. So that's ridiculous rushing speed. It's not as fast as the Nurse's teleports. Well, actually, it might be. I know the Nurse can get a maximum range of 23.5 meters, but I don't remember the speed necessarily. Either ways, essentially, once you set it and you let it go, you're just going straight. It doesn't say anything about, never mind, it says it in the next thing. Alright, we've defined this. We'll go to the next line. When a survivor is hit by the Soul Taker, they will immediately be down, regardless of health state. We can talk about this. Let me finish this. If a survivor with endurance is hit, they will be put into a deep wound effect instead. While using Soul Taker, the Reaper can go through walls. Though each time this is done, the range of Soul Taker is decreased by 4 meters. That's not positive balancing. That's not positive balancing at all. So, beside the fact that, you know, if your things come out perfectly, you can be stuck inside of a wall. If you happen to go right at the right amount of time and you're trying to go through a wall, and you don't have necessarily the range for that, you'll just be popped right inside of it. So it's going to have to do the calculations after the walls are done, which means every wall in the particular Dead by Daylight is going to have to be remeshed. Or another skeletal frame is going to have to be put over them for this particular Reaper killer. So doing it and letting it able to go through walls is going to obviously cause issues. The only other way they can go around that is to enable the Reaper to have no clip when sitting in walls. And no clipping, well, I mean, there's going to have to be no clip set pieces, because if you go no clip at all, they'll just fall through the map or do something crazy. So no clipping walls and things like that. If you get the skill just right enough to where you can land inside of a wall, you can literally then swing or effectively sit inside of a wall and stop a survivor from going either way. So if they're trying to use Kill Shack and you land somehow in between the wall or in between a space behind a hook or something like that, that rarely happens, and the no clip effect activates till you pass through or get to a solid tile, you're going to have a lot of power in going through walls and getting these hits and zoning and things like that. It's going to have to be a fail-safe state that they have into the game until they can incorporate that Reaper's not going to get stuck in random places like Pinhead did a lot during the PTB. Making somebody taking an endurance hit, putting them into the deep wound effect, I don't agree with. The endurance status is there for a reason. It is already balanced by game. It's already implemented. Don't try to change it. The Reaper can go through walls, then it's not even going to matter whether or not you're looking at a survivor or anything like that at all. And it's going to have to be more than walls. It's going to have to be, it has to go through objects. So again, during that particular dash, it's going to have a no-clip ability to allow it to go through things. Because if it's just walls, it's able to go through. Any type of props, trees, totems, generators, any of that, the Reaper's going to get stuck on. And again, if a generator's near an object and you're dashing into it, you're going to get stuck. So back to my main thing, the Reaper's going to have no clip when it lands in things. If it boosts all the way up to a generator that's in a wall, they can then land in wall and then go whatever way they need to go to get that jump on the survivor. Obviously, when the Reaper's going through walls, the walls are going to have to become either transparent or give the Reaper some sort of vision so they can also get out of the wall. So, programming that's going to be a pain in the butt. So I would either make it to where the Reaper can't go through walls, which means you're going to have that skill-based lineup to get that instant down, like with a chainsaw or something else, instead of letting them go through walls and get those insta downs. Because what you essentially have is you become the artist's bird, and as a survivor goes to that particular area, you just insta down them. Kill Shack becomes borderline useless, because all the Reaper's going to do is just go right alongside the wall towards the window at enough of a width to where you can scoop up the survivor as they run through. Making the survivor do a lot of unnecessary movement. So I would definitely change the wall thing, especially only decreasing the meters by 4 meters. You're essentially just making a nurse, but every time she goes through an object, her distance just gets decreased. Which Reaper can go farther than nurse anyway. But disregarding that, while charging Soul Taker, the Reaper's tear radius slowly drops to 0, with this effect lasting until the ability is cancelled. Okay. So, besides the sound that the Reaper's obviously going to make while rendering his scythe, the tear radius is going to disappear, letting everybody know that, hey, the Reaper's charging. The Reaper is locked in a 3-second animation after hitting a survivor, during which he moves at 95% speed. If no survivor is hit, the Reaper is locked in a 2-second animation and is slowed to 80% speed until it ends. Issue. If you're locked in animation, you're not supposed to be able to move. So what you're saying is, even after missing this super OP attack, I can still move at 95% of my speed and continue the chase in the survivor that I'm on. You literally just removed a main aspect of the game. I know it has limited charges, but I mean, a Reaper's not going to launch this attack until they know they have, you know, that obvious hit. Again, if a survivor's going through a window or something like that, yeah, you're going to release it. Or if you know the survivor's going to, you know, drop a pallet or anything like that, or any craziness involving into that, you can just get those automatic, you know, hits on them. But I mean, windows is majority where I personally would wait, because the survivor's locked in animation during windows. Or if you know a survivor's on a particular side of a generator, you might be able to scoop them up real quick with this insane movement speed, I might add. So again, in this case, I would increase the tear radius to like the other guy's 40 meters or even more, because this Reaper has a one-hit down. When he's locked in animation, he shouldn't be able to move. If he misses a survivor, I mean, I guess a 2-second animation is fine, but he still shouldn't be able to move. And you're going to give him a secondary power on top of that. Last Chime can be used by holding Control, which I think is the active ability button, for 3 seconds, during which the Reaper slows down to 75% speed. We know that 80% speed's 3.6, so 70% is probably like 3.5 or 3.4. I'm not doing the math on that because I already have a base set at 80. After Last Time is used, all injured survivors will hear what sounds like a distant bell chiming 12 totals, 1 chime each second. This muffles the Reaper's tear radius. Again, another reason to increase the tear radius of the baseline Reaper. In addition to that, all survivors that are hearing or being healed within 24 meters of the Reaper will be exposed for the next 30 seconds. And you're just adding more and more reasons to keep buffing this tear radius up. Because you don't want a full map-wide tear radius to be active at all times. Because that's just bad design. And it gets annoying hearing that tear radius all the freaking time. Like the legions that have that particular add-on, I think it's an iridescent add-on. So, you know, they can't use that all the time. But you do want it to have a higher tear radius, or if you don't want the tear radius to be significantly high, you should have the music, some sort of jingle when death's coming near you, a shimmer, anything like that, until he gets closer within the 32 meters, and then the tear radius comes on. You need some sort of secondary radius or an increase of his base. Perks. Reach injured survivor. You can see the aura of a healthy survivor. Nope. And you need to go farther. At the start of a trial, that's a Scorch Hook perk. Equalizer. When a survivor is hooked on a Scorch Hook, all other injured survivors scream. Nope. If the survivor doesn't scream, they're exposed 60 seconds. Nope. Next. Hex code command. All healthy survivors have their altruistic action speeds reduced by 33%. Mainly there is unhook speed, which in turn gives the Reaper an easy hit. Again, windows, when survivors are stuck in animation, unhooking, jumping through windows, even dropping pallets if you can time that quick enough, are when you're going to want to down survivors. The survivor is healed within 32 meters of this totem. They are incapacitated for 20 seconds. Also, this totem is blocked by the entity for 60 seconds. For healing near the totem, makes no sense. Too much. This can be incorporated. One, I wouldn't go anywhere over 15% extra actions. Actually, I wouldn't even go 15%. I would say slowing survivors down 10% on their unhooking speeds is well enough known. Survivors being healed, whatever meters within this, can be incapacitated for 20 seconds. I would generally cut that to 10, but 20 seconds is fine. They just got healed. It's going to take a little bit of time to go near a generator, you know, find that, and get resituated anyway. It's not terribly bad. The totem being blocked by the entity for 60 seconds, absolutely not. If you think about Hex Pentimento, you have to get 5 tokens in order to get totems blocked by the entity. And any other perk that's anywhere similar like that, like Pinheads, where the cursed person is the only one that can break the totem, for which got changed to after X amount of seconds, instead of it just being blocked forever. So, all of those have finite things and totem blockings and things like that attached to a small timer. So, absolutely not. Your totem should not be blocked. Cold command can be rebalanced to be a usable perk, Dead by Daylight style. But beyond that, I don't really recommend any of the extra stuff. So here's a new killer, not a chapter concept of the Grim Reaper. It has its obvious bugs and things that need to be worked through, perks that need to be changed and or discarded. And this concept needs to be extremely heavily flushed out. You would want to see everything balanced for potentially any type of negative situation that can occur. You wanted to have a complicated concept that goes through walls and do things like that, you're going to have a complicated explanation. So either cut out the fat or take the time to simmer and cook the meat right and explain everything and balance it for every situations. Or for every situation. But on top of that, it has been right around 2 hours, and I know I haven't been doing a lot of content. Generally, I spend 4 hours in between two concepts. Now I'm trying to kind of get it a little bit faster by providing some sort of, idea of what we're looking for, but I'm really trying to push. Again, when it comes to this, overviews now is the main thing I'm trying to push. Balance is always going to be the main issue about things, and whether it's balanced and can be properly implemented into the game. Like I said, other commenters that come through and comment on things generally provide even more intel as the community as a whole. So I'm not necessarily leaning into suggestions anymore like I used to. Unless asked. I mean, if this particular person watches this and he asks me to help him, which, I mean, you already have a little bit of suggestions and balancing and things like that. But I'm not going to go heavily into each particular thing and pull it apart and say this and that and that and that and that and here's this idea and things like that. I'm keeping my particular ideas for the most part in my head, saying it as it is, and then moving on. One day, maybe once a week, I could have like, I don't know, Sunday morning Dead by Daylight review, suggestions and all, where I take one concept and I pull everything apart and we just go over a list of suggestions. But this would obviously be when I have a bigger crowd and people interested in hearing my suggestions and things like that. Until then, I'm just going to keep it simple and not blow myself up streaming-wise. And as I get more viewers in, we can then increase the amount of content and things like that. But I'm going to switch over to Splinter Cell Double Agent. It's going to be a dual stream through YouTube and Twitch. So unless you like Twitch more, just stay put and look out for it if you're interested. Thank you, anybody that's stopping by. We got quite a bit of is it not capture? Oh, because I closed my date. I thought it wasn't recording the screen anymore. Jesus, I had a heart attack. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. And as always, supplement your lifestyle. I need an ending screen just for YouTube that says that. Might make that today if I have time or remember. And I'll see you guys in a bit, tomorrow, or the next time you decide to tune in. Till then.